Hi, everybody. It's been a while. I know you haven't seen my face, so just in case you don't actually remember who I am, I'm Heather. It's good to see you, and I hope that as the summer continues, you are enjoying the green grass and the sunshine like I am. In just a few minutes, we're going to be joined by my good friend Joy Foreman, who's actually a member of our board and a longtime member of CareImport. She actually used to be my boss when I worked for Sodexo. That's how I first met her. Anyway, so we're going to have Joy come and join us. We've been asking a few board members over the last little while to give us little updates on what the Lord's been revealing to them in this season of COVID. It's one of the things we've realized is that sometimes you don't even know who our board members are, let alone what their lives are like. And so we want to find ways for us all to connect together. So Joy's going to be joining us in just a few minutes. Many of you will know Joy. If you don't, she has been battling breast cancer since the second half of last year. She's been on this journey. And through treatment and things like that, we've just been walking with Joy in prayer, and many of you have been providing meals for her and Chad and their kids. And we're just so thankful for the way that God has been providing for the Foremans at this time, even just in allowing the freedom for Chad to take Joy to all of her appointments and just the support that they've had in this community. I'm so thankful for Joy's witness. And so it's kind of exciting to have her to just join us and to have a good conversation about where they are right now and what the Lord's been teaching them and maybe how we can pray for them. I'll just invite you to listen in as we have this conversation, and I hope and trust that the Lord will actually speak to us through it all. These testimonies are testimonies of his work in his people. We often think it's about our own story, but I think more than ever, I'm being reminded that testimony is about telling God's story as it's playing out in our lives. And so I hope that the conversation that we're going to have is encouraging for you as you consider maybe gathering with others this week. Let me invite you to share some of your stories, not just stories of how hard necessarily these last few months have been, although we certainly want to recognize that, but more so of how the Lord is revealing himself to you in this season, and maybe things that he's calling you into, and maybe those things are convicting, maybe those things are really exciting and new. And I hope and I trust that the Lord will continue to provide and to continue to guide us as his people to bear fruit for his kingdom, even in seasons like this that are so unprecedented. So anyway, here we go. Let's talk with Joy.
Can you hear me now, Heather?
I can. Hello.
I'm just going outside. Oh, dear.
Oh, it's so good to see you.
I feel like I haven't seen you in like forever.
I know, right? By the time this goes up, it's like literally 3 months of gap.
Yikes. It kind of went fast, but kind of not at the same time.
Right? I feel that too. I get you. You actually look really good. How are you feeling right now? How are you doing?
I've actually been feeling more myself the last few weeks and feeling really good. I'm taking more vitamins now, so I'm sure that's part of it. But
yeah, sure.
But yeah, just the last probably 3 weeks. I've just started. I'm sleeping better. I have a little bit more of my appetite back, and so starting to feel a little bit more myself.
Yeah, totally.
Slowly but surely. So still get tired a lot, but
yeah.
That I hear is going to last for a long time. So
okay, is that just like an effect of the meds and everything and going through radiation and stuff?
Yeah, the chemo and the radiation, they say fatigue can last years.
Okay.
But for sure 6 months to a year, generally you feel the effects of it. And
sure.
So thus the extra vitamins.
Yeah, totally, right? Like finding different things. I'm sure day by day, it's probably a lot of self-monitoring as time goes on.
Yes. I started back to work part-time on Thursday. Okay. And I was so excited to go back to work. It was hilarious. But Nestle would only let us go back part days, so it's perfect to ease me back in.
So just for the people
So
who don't know, what do you do for Nestle?
I'm a merchandising specialist well, I specialize in Walmart and Shoppers Drug Mart, but I'm expanding now.
Oh, there you go.
So yeah, I've been going to superstores and Sobeys and co-ops now. So, well, I mean, I was pre-COVID. I
Sure.
have to ease back into it again, but
Yeah.
yeah. So
So, like, do you find yourself almost growing slightly impatient for being healthier again, in a way, or are you kind of okay with where you're at? Okay.
I I have found in the last week probably I'm getting impatient to just be normal, quote unquote, again, and just not have to. I mean, I realize I'm going to have to worry about some things for a good long time,
Right. Yeah.
but I'm getting a little tired of being sick and having restrictions and having to force myself to not do things.
Hmm.
So COVID kind of helped with that.
Sure.
Not that God caused COVID for my benefit, but
Oh, yeah. I know.
I the timing of it was very beneficial for my recovery because I did my whole radiation during COVID.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah.
So, and then after about a week after I was done radiation, I kind of plummeted for a while.
Yeah.
And like worse than chemo, actually, for me. I couldn't move. I was just on the couch. It was all I could do to somewhat function on
Right.
the couch.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if I had had the pressure of trying to go to work, I think that might have, yeah. I mean, I don't think I would have for about 3 weeks. I don't think I could have worked
Yeah.
physically. Like I could do the things and attend the meetings on Zoom and whatever for work from home, but I couldn't have physically done the work.
Oh,
So,
totally. Yeah.
so I feel in some ways that was, God was protecting me by forcing me to not be allowed to go to work. Even though
Yeah. You can't really have it. You have a good excuse when the whole world shuts down. Right?
exactly.
there's no
It's very
question of
true.
whether you should do it or not. It's just the whole world shuts down.
Yeah.
You really can't. You might as well not
Yeah.
fight it at that point because you guys are typically quite busy. It feels like a lot of the time, unless you're able to get away, right? Yeah, your family's super busy
Yeah.
with the different.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this is right now would be our slow time as a family because there's no hockey, but
Right.
it's a busier time for Chad for work.
Yes.
But in terms of extracurricular, this is our slow time. There's nothing going on. So
Yeah. Yeah. And Alex is in Moose Jaw right now,
yeah.
and
Yep.
Jason's at home, right?
And Jason's at home. Yeah.
Jason's at home.
So we kind of swapped one child for the other because it was about a week between the two of them.
Okay. Yeah.
So Jason came home early, of course, and then Alex, she was going to move out in May, but because of COVID, her roommate came home from college early, so they decided to move April 1st instead of May 1st.
But
So
it's also I'm glad they're both within close distance, though. That's kind of nice.
yeah,
It's not like
yeah,
too far away anymore.
yeah, not like I did with my parents and move halfway across the country, and
Right.
be like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Totally. Been there.
so
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
That makes total sense.
Oh dear,
So
but yeah.
when you think about what this season's been like, are there things that the Lord seems to be revealing to you in the midst of it? Like you talked a little bit about just slowing down, like not really having a choice with that. But like
Right.
anything that's kind of coming to mind that He's kind of been teaching you right now.
The one thing that I've really okay, well, there's two things, I guess, but the one thing that's really been impressed on my mind since kind of the beginning of all of this is just um, learning to allow people to use their gifts and not do everything myself.
Okay.
Because I tend to be the one doing everything. And now suddenly, you know, and it's somewhat a pride thing, I think, you know, like I can do this myself. I don't need help. Well, now I actually really do need help.
Yeah.
And to say no to someone who wants to help, whatever it is in their gifting, whether it's a meal or, you know, sending us something in the mail or taking care of something, you know, for Alex or whatever it is, to deny them using their gifts, I feel like is wrong. And you know, I feel I need to use my gifts in certain ways, and these people are like, this is where I'm gifted.
Yeah.
So I want to do that for you. And so learning to accept the help and the diversity that people have in the way that they help, and the number of people that have just rallied around us and want to know what's happening because they genuinely do care, and they are praying. Like there are days where I can feel the prayers going up. It has just been, some days it's overwhelming. And I'm gonna cry over this, but anyway,
we're good with crying. Crying's fine.
but just to know that this community is a family, really. You know, neither one of us are close to our family, so to have help from the community as our family, and to be able to accept that and be okay with people seeing me not my normal self.
Yeah.
But the other thing that I've really been learning through all this is just to be accepting of people where they're at. Not everyone's where I am.
Yeah.
Not everyone's where my kids are, and just say, you know what, that's okay because they're trying, or that's okay because that's where they're at in their life or their walk or whatever, and just not judge people so much, really. That's really kind of, I don't know, I've just been learning to just accept where people are at, and that's their best.
Yeah.
And their best isn't the same as your best or my best, but that's all that God really wants from us, is our best. And your best is okay for you, but that's not what I have to offer. And yeah, so it's
interesting,
kind
right?
of hard.
It feels
hard to
like all together in this interesting way of like you mentioned, this challenge of, I struggle with the same thing of like accepting help or receiving help. And like, it's really humbling. And yet I feel like the more that I'm willing to receive, it's like the more we're able to recognize that other people have different struggles, and there's almost like a great equality that comes from it, you know. Like, I'm not going to put everybody in the same boat as I am, and even my expectations of myself, when suddenly my expectations are changed because of different things going on. Like, like that's part of this journey, right, of going like, oh yeah, we're all in humanity.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's an interesting learning process for me, but also to just, I don't know, I feel like I'm learning to accept when people, it's hard to explain, when people are helping me or doing something for me, the joy that it brings them then makes me happy that I can bring that to them or allow that to be in a, you know.
Yeah. It's almost like the joy in the receiving, being on the receiving end. Yeah. And it kind of expands. Yeah. I wonder if it has to do with this, like, you know, when a part of the body is struggling or is weaker or is sick or something, and the rest of the body compensates, like you said, like the Lord provides all these other gifts to compensate for it.
True.
In a way that's actually like, it should be encouraging. Sometimes it's almost discouraging because we want to be the one that's doing the activity, but at the same time, you do have great joy in seeing these things come out of people that you never really knew. Like, I can imagine for you, like, you guys have been serving for so long in our community in all of these different areas, and like with students and with families and all of these athletes, all these different people. I'm sure people came out of the woodwork that you were really surprised by in the midst of.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Like, I know we've lived here for a long time and people know who I am or who Chad is, or, but the people that would text or call, and the letters that I'd get in the mail, just, Joy Foreman, general delivery, because nobody knows my box number.
Oh.
But, it's just, it was overwhelming, really, especially at the beginning when there was so much going on and I didn't even know which way was up half the time. And then people who are coming out of the woodwork now saying, yeah, I had breast cancer however many years ago, and I had no idea.
Yeah.
And, there's the hockey team was another one that just totally surprised me this year. I mean, everyone knows that I'm a hockey person, but we had new coaches this year and a lot of new players, and I wasn't around at the beginning because their first exhibition game was the day that I met with the surgeon.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I literally went from the surgeon's office to the game. So they didn't know me as a healthy person ever. And somehow, I guess they found out. I'm not really sure how, actually, but constantly getting texts that, how are you doing? And I'm like, these guys don't even know who I am or anything about me. Perhaps my, the legends have gone on ahead, but it's like, yeah, there's this weird woman who hangs out at the rink all the time.
Yeah.
But, the guys that, I'd come into the rink and they would genuinely want to know how I was doing, and I'd get a hug from them. There were days that that's what I needed. I just needed someone to just say, it's okay. It's going to be fine. We appreciate you. Yeah. And to get it from these big, tough hockey players, you wouldn't think that would happen.
I can imagine some tears fell in the mix.
Yes. Yeah. So I actually got in trouble one time for not updating them when I had an appointment of some sort. I can't remember what. And it's like, we pray for you every day and you didn't tell us. So, it's just, that to me was a very humbling experience to say, oh, these people actually genuinely want to know. And now the tables are turned. I'm not the one that's giving the care and the concern. It's, it's so strange, but those moments were the moments that kept me going some days.
That's beautiful. Like, it's beautiful to think of this, like, I mean, you have been serving with so much heart in the midst of like these past decades of being here, right? And to see that happen, and like the Lord has borne so much fruit from doing that, right? And now there's this weird space in which, on the flip side, you're receiving a lot of these gifts, even almost like that have been inherited by this next team that don't even know a lot about, you know what I mean, right? Like, there's just this beautiful love that's somehow been passed on through what you've been doing with these teams, that there's just this immediate connection. And I feel like that's just entirely of the Lord. Like, that's a huge testimony to both the faithfulness of you and Chad in the midst of that space, but also just his faithfulness in going like, these are your people. I'll reaffirm it that these are still your people. Like, I've given these to you, and maintaining that connection. Because I imagine in the midst of this, like, that there were probably times where you felt really disconnected from everybody just by sheer isolation.
Yep, for sure.
Yeah.
I never felt alone, but
Mm.
I certainly felt isolated. I think there's a difference between
Yeah,
the
yeah.
two, like um especially during my radiation, because it was all done during COVID.
Oh,
So no one was allowed to go into the clinic with me. I needed a ride every time, so I'd get dropped off at the door, and then literally had to go through a gauntlet looking thing to
mm.
get down to the radiation department, and several checkpoints along the way, and then to just lay there on the table. I never felt alone in that process. Like I knew there were people praying for me, and I knew that God was there, and I felt that, but I certainly felt isolated because I couldn't be with people.
Yeah, yeah, totally. I think a lot of people can understand that right now. Maybe not in the exact same way, but I think we're understanding that fine line between isolation and loneliness right now. It feels like,
Yeah.
maybe as things open up, that's going to change a little bit, but that has been a challenge. I feel like um,
Hmm.
staying connected with each other, even though we have these beautiful gifts of technology and stuff, it's just very different than being able to see
Yeah.
people in the same way. Totally.
I mean, I told my dad the other day, he was questioning, why I wasn't fretting more than I am.
Mm.
And I said, yeah, I don't feel any fear. I feel well cared for in my community. I feel God's hand, even though it's seemingly a bad situation, or I have felt God's hand the whole way.
Mm.
I have seen His hand work. Um, I keep a blessings journal that I was given as a wedding gift, actually,
Mm.
and just writing in there the other day, just going, the timing of this, or this person that did this, or this event happened. God's hand has been in the whole thing, and I know I'm His child, and I know He loves me, and I know that for whatever reason He has allowed this to happen, but He's walking with me through it.
Yeah.
So
It's
so
amazing
I
the peace that like his presence just brings, right? Like
oh, absolutely. Yeah.
it's yeah. It
I've picked a different scripture passage for each segment of this journey, just to say to myself, or to read to myself as I go to certain things, and it's just just reading God's word and reciting it to myself. And the days where I had chemo brain and I honestly couldn't remember it were devastating to me.
yeah.
And I'd lay there, when I was doing radiation, I was Psalm 23 was my go-to passage for that.
Yeah.
And I'd lay there on the table, and there were days I couldn't remember certain parts of it,
Yeah.
and I'd cry and think, like, I've known this passage as a child,
Mm.
and I can't remember it now, but I still always felt that regardless if I could remember or not, I knew that God was there.
Yeah.
So yeah, just such peace I've had through this whole process. And so
Hmm.
so I hope that through this, I mean, I know that God has a purpose. I shouldn't say I hope. I know He has a purpose, but I hope through this process that not only will God's purpose become evident and help in whatever ways I need to do that, but also that it will change me
Yeah.
as well. Um, just into a gentler, more understanding, perhaps less busy person that
Mm.
focuses more on the important things and not on the petty little things that don't really matter. I've learned not everything matters anymore. The little things don't matter.
Yeah.
So,
Hmm.
but
Well,
but it's
I am so thankful for the ways that I can even just see in the way that you're telling this story, like that the Lord is keeping you soft right? And kind of responsive in the midst of it all. And
Yeah.
I think that's one of the hardest things, that fear often hardens us instead of making us soft. And you've been through so much in this last year,
Hmm.
and just to hear you speak of wanting God to transform in the midst of this, like not just asking for deliverance, but actually just transformation of some kind.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it is a sign of His work in you, I think. So we really, our knee-jerk response is to ask for deliverance and freedom, and
Hmm.
those things are certainly within His power, and yet at the same time to be transformed is perhaps an even higher ask of God, that He would
Right.
just transform
Yeah.
us in the midst of whatever
Yeah.
circumstances, you know.
I felt right from the very beginning that God had a reason for this, which is weird because you'd think that initially you'd be like, why is this happening to me? But I didn't feel that. I felt like, okay, God's got some plan here. So um, I was telling someone early on that, I had originally prayed that it would be nothing and the test would come back negative and everything would be fine. And when it was quite apparent that those things were not happening, um, I changed my prayer, quite honestly, and I stopped asking for a miracle because I didn't feel that I was going to get a miracle. I
Mm,
felt like there was some reason I needed to walk through this.
yeah,
And, and so I just started praying, help me to walk through it with grace.
yeah,
Hopefully he has, you
yeah,
know?
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
It's
going
true.
forward, where are you at right now? How can we be praying for you? What does life look like in the next couple of months, as far as you know?
Well, everything is subject to change, but um, I will be going for surgery on Wednesday, the 17th.
Okay.
Um, that is the last big thing
Mm.
in this whole plan,
Wow.
uh, for which I'm very thankful for. But I think, and here I'm going to cry again. Um, this one's been the hardest for me to process.
Yeah.
And I knew it was going to happen. It was part of the plan all along. Um, but knowing what it takes to recover now, and I'm just starting to feel like myself again, and now I'm going to go backwards
Yeah.
for a while yet. Um, I'm told I have the best surgeon in the area doing this surgery,
Sure.
which and I met him the day that Saskatchewan shut down, so that was very interesting.
Yeah.
And I felt immediately comfortable with him.
Mm.
His daughter is in my breast cancer support group, actually,
Wow.
um, which is very cool. I felt immediately after meeting him that God had provided yet again a surgeon who was very sympathetic to what I was going through. And I'm not worried for the surgery in and of itself.
Mm-hmm.
And this will be done at the Regina General Hospital, which is the only one I have not been to yet.
Okay.
So, so it's unfamiliar territory to me. I'm not really sure where to even go once I get in there. So I'm not feeling any nerves. I'm just feeling a sense, I think, of disappointment that I have to go backwards again and build up again. And
Yeah. Yeah.
so so that's happening Wednesday. Surgery is booked shortly after noon.
Okay.
If all goes well, they will let me come home that night.
Oh, wow. That's interesting.
Yeah. The surgeon thinks I'm going to sail through it really well because I did really well in my first surgery.
Hmm.
Um, so I'm hoping he's right, but well, we'll see how it goes, I guess.
That's fair. Yeah.
And then I'll be at home for anywhere from 2 to 6 weeks, he said, is the recovery time. So um after that, it will just be continuing on this drug trial that I'm doing, and that will give me a little bit extra care at the cancer clinic because of the trial.
Yeah.
They need to monitor me a little bit more closely than they would normally at this stage of the process. So I'm kind of thankful that I agreed to do the trial, because I'll be seeing them for a while, it'll be every month, and then it'll be every 3 months from there, and continuous blood work through the whole thing. So if anything does come back or does show up, it'll be seen almost immediately. So
can you remind me what the drug trial is for? Like, what's the purpose of the trial that you're
on? The one that I'm participating in right now is a drug. Well, I'm not sure. I might have the placebo. I might have the actual drug.
Right. Yeah. Who knows?
But the trial itself is to see if this particular drug will prevent cancer from reoccurring in breast cancer patients.
Okay, yeah.
And they felt, because of my age, that I was a good candidate for this trial.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the next part of the process. And
yeah, I'm so glad we got to chat about how you're doing, and like just where you are in this journey. Like, I know that I feel like these last 3 months, like you say, have been this big break, and yet like I've been so happy to get like updates from you by text and know how things are going. And I know so many people are going to be so happy to even just see you for a while and connect and just like hear this story of this journey. We're asking everybody in response, we're actually asking everybody to just spend some time praying for you and for Chad and Alex and for Jason, and just for your family going forward. And I mean, you know, we're so thankful for all the ways that you serve, and yet I'm also super thankful that you continue to serve on the board, and no doubt we're constantly in prayer for people. I have very little doubt of that. And just the ways that you continue to be faithful. I mean, it's so different than probably you could have even imagined 2020 to be.
Oh,
like,
absolutely.
2019. But at the same time, like, what a beautiful testimony to, I guess, just walking it one day at a time.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So many people see me walking down the road and they take a double take, and because my hair is starting to grow back, and I look totally different. You know, in the winter I wore a hat, which is totally normal in winter. And then they're like, "Oh, it's you!" And you know, it's like, it's kind of funny. But anyway, I have, since the weather's been nice and I've been trying to go out for walks and just to see people, and I feel like they're just as encouraged as I am to meet up with me, you know, just at the side of the road. And and I've certainly appreciated the, you know, the encouragement along the way. And
I'm so glad that we got to do this. It's good to see you, and I'm sure we'll see you out on the road. Now everybody knows what you look like, so they will recognize you on the road. And
it's true.
You won't get the double take all the time. But yeah, the Lord bless you guys. I am so thankful for all the ways you guys serve. And I don't know, I'm thankful that we have the connection that we do of being a part of this body at this time. It's
me too. Very thankful.
We love you guys very much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.